as part of the victims fund. Okay. Have you been subjected to an unwanted test in Canvas? Contact 1-800-BR549. All righty. And let me see here. Launch the meeting. Oh, this is not good. All right. Zoom is not. Are you folks who have logged into Zoom, are you able to see my screen? Anybody here logged into Zoom yet and clicked on the meeting number? Can you see my screen? You can? Okay. All righty. Good. It's so, they've adapted it and made it worse than it was. Okay. What am I even talking about? Okay. So you should go ahead and log into VMware, then go to Google, log into Canvas, and then you should go into the announcements section and see the invitation to the meeting. Click on invitation and join the meeting, and you should be able to see my screen. And what you should see right now is week 4, module 4, i.e. week 4. Does everybody see that? Yes? Yeah? Okay, now, if you look there, you're going to see a file called Celebrity Souvenir Shop, Harmon Keith Hands-On Uno, or 1. Download that to your desktop because that's where we left off last time. And we're going to use it to work on this hands-on today. Got me? Okay? So that you don't have to, I'm trying to save you having to go through all these steps where they just have you input data. It's a waste of your time. And if I can solve that issue, I will have gone a long way. So go ahead and download the file to your machine, and you'll want to save it. And I'm going to download it, and I'm going to save it. And you'll want to save it. Celebrity Souvenir Shop, your last name, first name, hands-on 2, because that's what we're going to be working on here. So we'll just call this hands-on 2. Fair enough? All righty. And I'm going to save this as my PC and on my desktop. And I'm going to save it as hands-on 2. Okie doke. And we'll do a little work today. And where are you? Hands-on 2, there you are. All of you who are looking on Zoom should see something very remarkable. Or is that inspirational? You see Cardinal Buddy? Off the aerial of my old Trail West Chevy Blazer. He is up there in Jackson Hole, Wyoming. Those are the Grand Tetons. Anybody been there up there? You need to make the trek. It's an amazing thing. You just drive into Jackson Hole, and then you go about 2-3 miles out of town, and suddenly here are these snow-capped mountains right in front of you. The scene of many a Western movie, and a beautiful, beautiful place to go. And about 2 hours or an hour and a half to 2 hours south of, not Yosemite, I guess Yosemite. And beautiful place, beautiful, beautiful part of the world. So anyway, he's smiling because they're still in the first place in the Central Division, although they have the Cubs coming up. But so that will probably change radically. But there he is, and he's happy to be with me. You should too. You know, he never changes. He's always smiling. Isn't it amazing? Do you think I'm attributing human characteristics to an inanimate object? If you think that's funny, wait till your car stops next time and you begin to yell at it. What's wrong with you? All right. This is the hands-on exercise. It's over at page 331, POTSI, and as I said before, I've tried to just spare you a lot of stuff in terms of just inputting data. And again, for some of you, maybe many of you, I apologize because some of this is so rudimentary, but frankly, I don't know where everybody's coming from. So when I teach this course, I try to start as fundamentally as I possibly can. So there'll be some stretches where you go, no, okay, I've done this. But there's going to be some where you'll be holding on to your desk and you'll be crying for mama. So take the good with the bad. It's kind of like chili, you know, you can make it as hot or mild as you want. Anybody a fan of chili? All right, good, very good, very good. Okay, let me close the door so I don't get people next door riled up at us. Is the temperature a little better today? Okay. Well, first couple of weeks, I like to run it really warm in here so we can inspire you to make a decision if you have a question. Yeah, you have to scroll down through there. One of the wonderful things about Canvas is it doesn't let me reorder the announcements. It just puts them in where it wants. Like I said, you pay for what you get. And the other is so much more expensive. And obviously, I'm not worth it. I won't say any more. But I'm sorry about that. It's just one of the flaws of it. So you have to dig through. All righty. Now, we're over on page 331 of the POTSI text. 331, hands-on exercise, mathematical operations and formulas. And we're going to have an exciting foray. Now, when I downloaded the file that I put over there in Canvas for you, I renamed it to hands-on 2. Why? Well, this is hands-on 2 for Excel. Okay? And then I'm through today. Well, I'll save it for hands-on 3 so we can spare you the details of doing a lot of data entry. Let's open that file up and let's launch into this and we'll see some things. Now, again, let me say this. You have a couple of backups for you. You have this, if you are not, you know, an advanced user or the pace is a little too fast for you, you always have a couple of resources, really 3. One, you have the file that I'll post. You have the textbook, which will walk you ding, 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 and you had the screencast that I record and put over on YouTube. So it'd probably be good for a minute, many of you to quit watching the cat videos at YouTube, cat playing the piano or stuff like that, or you know, the cat does Excel. My kitty can do solver, and watch something related to class. And you never know. That may be my last screencast. Life is short, and I'm on the end of the, see, you're ascending the actuarial table. I'm at the top, and it's a long, slow slide downwards. Just given longevity, my family, I'm 20, 25 years out at best. At best. Life is like a vapor, just like the Bible says. I was your age once, and I blinked and looked here. And I looked one day, and I looked in the mirror. Who's this old guy in here? Oh, it's me. Bible says much truth. Your life will go fast. Make the most of your time. I absolutely urge you to do that. Okay, let's look at this. We got this here, Celebrity Musician Shop. Oh my goodness gracious. And we're rolling along. We've got a nice little table there. And I have today's date. How did I do that? It's magic. I use the equal now. I said, tell me now. So it gives me the date. So that's how I date and time stamp it. Here's the owner, myself. Now, I could also add some things in here like, does it have any macros? Okay. So I'm going to do this. I'm going to put macros, M-A-C-R-O-S, and I will put none. Macros are basically keystrokes that are saved, and they can be nasty little critters once they're injected into somebody's file. So underneath what you see here, there are really 3 levels going on with Excel. When I click in cell F5, I see the result set, or the data, or the result display, excuse me. Then I see the formula under there, and then even under there is an area where they have a thing called VBA, Visual Basic, VBE, Visual Basic for Excel, where you can really do some tailoring and you can write some pretty simple code. But if someone wants to be nasty, they do what they call an SQL injection, where they'll put some code in there that makes it's executable, and it makes your computer and your files do all kinds of crazy stuff. So it's always a good idea to tell people if there's a macro. Now, if you use a file and you create a macro, Excel will warn you that there's one in there. Okay, just a little bit beyond the textbook, but that's okay. We're good to go. So we don't have any macros. So let's look there at that very first step there on page 331. That's step B. And they want us to click cell E5. So let's do that. Click on that cell E5. And you'll notice that we see the cell reference there, C5 times D5. Now, what's different between us and the textbook? Simple. I shared with you about how to do cell referencing, if you don't know it already. When I put a $sign in front of the letter, which stands for column, it tells Excel I'm working the column, I'm working down. If I put the $sign in front of the number, it means I'm working the row. If I put a $sign in front of them, I say I have a fixed cell, period. Okay? So we have those different, we have really those two relative, what we call 2 types of relative cell references. One is column oriented, that's $signs in front of the letter, or one is oriented, $signs in front of the number, or an absolute cell reference, which is a pure absolute, which has $signs in front of the numbers and the letters. And then I guess you would call it a pure relative that has no $signs anywhere. And if you look there, you'll see the authors show you that on step B. That is there's no orientation there. So if you try to do a drag and drop with that, you might get some wacky results. So you always want to be careful about using cell referencing. In this case, we're saying I'm going to drag and drop. If I want to drag and drop this, instead of writing out that same formula over 100 times, then I'm going to use this referencing. And watch as you scroll down, just scroll down to the next one. You're going to see C6, D6, C7, D7. I'm going to harp on this because one of these days when you're working with 200 or 300 records, you have to do a drag and drop. You'll be thankful that you've got that and you've got that in your brain. Even if it's a row or it is a column, it's most likely going to be a column. Okay, and the ability to do that just saves you a lot of error as opposed to inputting all those data, hard coding them in, putting in numbers. Now, they ask you to enter the formula, all right, and they tell us there in step C, we did it by the markup rate, okay, and we have the markup rates here are percentages. And if you look, you're going to say, hey, now wait a minute. This does not look like what I'm seeing in the book, and it doesn't. So we're going to do a little finagling here with some formatting. Now, originally when we did this, we did a markup rate of 1.095%, which is basically 0.0095, right? Okay. And that's 0.0195. And that's how we would get a markup rate of 9 cents. But in this case, they're saying, oh no, where the markup rate is 1.095, not a percentage. So I'm gonna take that from a percentage, and let's click on that and take that whole, and let's click there, and we're gonna change that into a different type of format. And look up here at the number tab, and click on, and we're just going to make it a number, okay? And it shows us now the number, not a percent format. But we want 1.095. So I'm going to delete that, I'm going to put 1.095. Okay. What we got there. Now, to make it look exactly like the book, I'm going to increase the decimals. And now we have the 1.095, the markup amount, and the retail price that matches what's in the book for hats, for the hat. Got that? Now, I'm going to try something here using the format. I'm going to click on cell D5, copy, and then I'm going to click the format painter, and I'm going to apply the format painter to the remaining cells and see if I get what I want. And do I? Nope, I don't. So let's look at the hoodie, and the hoodie's going to be, that's 1.2. So we're going to have to change those to numbers. So the hoodie will be 1.2. And then the mug is, the cost of the markup is 2, so we're good there. And then for the souvenir program, the markup is 1.01%. 1.01, so we're good there. And I'll decrease the decimal so it looks uniform. In fact, I'm going to come back up to the 2 and do that as well. I'll do it with the 1.0. I'm going to leave that there. Now, on the soundtrack CD, I've got the markup amount is 0.875. So we're just going to increase the decimal on that. And and it raises the price. Good, 0.875 up. I need to move a decimal over. So just input the data. So put in 0.875, and it's giving me that nasty thing. And I want 8.75. You little weasel. All right, there we go. And then we'll decrease the decimals, and we'll be good. And it'll look nice like it should. Here we go. Price is 15. And now the very last one, the markup is for the t-shirt is 3.155. And there we are, and we get the new prices. So we should check, and we want to check everything there, the retail prices, the markup amounts, all that business. And now everything we have should match in terms of the retail price, the markup amount, the markup percent, okay, or the markup rate, excuse me, and then the cost. Now we haven't done anything with the percent, okay, off yet, but they've got the percent off, and we're still good. Yep. And let's look at the t-shirt. The t-shirt's percent off is, nope, we have some to change. All right, the percent off on the hat will be 15%. The hoodie is going to be 20% off. The mug is going to be 10% off. So that should be 10. And then the, see the mug, why are you giving me this word? No, not 1,000%. There we go. And then the souvenir program, and that's 25%, so we're good there. Soundtrack CD is 30%, and then 10% for the soundtrack. So that's just going to be, we'll get rid of that, and it'll be 10. And we'll have to adjust the zeros out a little bit. And there we go. Now, so let's check the percents, make sure everything's right there. 15%, 20%, 10%, 25, 30, and 10%. Okay. Now I have the sales price, and we have profit amounts and profit margins all computed in. Okay. Got those all done now. So I wanted us to mess with some formatting, input, change some of the data, change them from percentages just to numbers, leave alone. And they show over on the top of page 322, they show us the fill handle.
In other words, let the lawyers.
And let's see what else we got going on there.
Well, I think there's a lot of stuff, and I'll let the lawyers kind of flesh that out. But
no, nothing. Now, step 2 over there on page 320, 332. Excuse me, page 332. They show you to apply the order of operation. Okay. So they ask us to click cell H5. So let's do that. All right. And there we see an order of operation is equal F5, okay, minus F5 times G5. Everybody remembers the order of operation from math. What happens first in the order of operation? Okay, whatever's in the parentheses gets done, then what? Okay, and exponents, after the exponents, what happens?
I think we have to be careful with that.
Okay, and then finally, addition or subtraction. So we wanted, the first thing we're going to do there is we take the F5 times the G, and we subtract that from the price, which is F5. That's why I like the name manager, and click up on the formulas and click on name manager. And you'll see we could have used, we could use the name manager for all of these variables in here. It'd be a little complicated, but it would make it a lot easier to understand what we're looking at. If I'm looking here and I see F5 minus F5. Now, one of the tools that Excel will help me with is this. Click inside the toolbar, into the formula bar, and you'll see the cells that go hot, and they show you different colors that you're using. Got it? Now that's great if you're up near the top of the visual acuity. And what I mean by visual acuity is what you see on your screen, okay? You may have a record way down below that is going to be a little bit more problematic. So you may want to use the name manager, and it might be worth time to go through and work with it and define every single name that's in here. And again, it's just simply a matter of you click on, you define something, okay? And then when you're ready to use it in a formula, you do. Okay? Now I'm going to do this. Click on cell, let's see, click on cell I5, and we're going to define a name. Like that, and we'll get the define name dialog box, and I'm going to call this hat profit amount. Okay. When I put the name in, I'm going to squeeze all the letters together. If I don't, I'll get an error sign unless I use the underscores. So if you don't want to live with the underscores, just cram the whole name together. So it would be the hat profit margin. Okay, and it applies to the data in I5. See that? With me? Now, scope of this definition, and it depends upon how extensive your workbook is. Right now, by default, it will apply this to everything, every cell on the workbook. For every worksheet, it will apply that. And it will apply that value. If you want to limit it to just a particular spreadsheet, like the sheet called data, then it's simple. You choose data. But you do have the ability, if you want, to work within sheets by defining a name or variable and then assigning it that cell for every single workbook, for every single spreadsheet, every sheet in the workbook. Got it? Yeah? Okay. And we'll click OK. And we're good. Now I want to use that. And you say, okay, click up here in the define names and click on use formula, using formula. And let's find the hat profit margin. And I say, okay, what would it be if I increase that, or I wanted to increase it by 30%? So I have hat profit margin times 0.30. And I have something that when I click inside the cell, I see the result, which is $1.84. Okay. And I can look in the formula bar and I can see the underlying formula. If I want to, I can click inside the formula bar again and it will show me the cells that are being used. It will put a fill and a color border around them. Once you've kind of gotten some of these fundamentals down in terms of working with the ribbons in Excel, you pretty much could use any spreadsheet that's out there or any spreadsheet product that someone provides you. Okay? And again, it's just simply an issue of it's a lot easier to work with a variable than it is to just simply work with some crazy kind of thing. Now, we had done some computation over here. We computed the average, the standard deviation, the median, the range, that type of thing. But let's move on, and we've looked at step 3, displaying these formulas. Okay, so we've really done that. So nothing there terribly difficult. Okay. So I want to take us to do this a little bit more advanced thing, but look there on page 333, and it says click the formulas tab, and let's click formulas, and then let's find the show formulas. And if you look there on the formula, click the formulas tab in the ribbon, and then come over and you'll see formula auditing. Okay, and above it, click show formulas. And what it will do is it will show you the formula used to get the particular result. Now, to me, it's a nice function. I mean, it's a nice feature, but you know, the truth is, if you're out of it, all you got to do is click in the formula bar and you see how you got there in the first place. But if you're working on a spreadsheet and you're concerned about consistencies and all of this, this is probably the best way to do it. You say, what do you mean by consistencies? Let's look at the markup amounts over there, okay? And you look in that column. Does everybody see what I'm saying here? All right, notice something that's going on. As I go down from the hat to the hoodie to the mug, etc., I continue to see what? Column C and column D. What changes? The columns stay the same, but what change? The numbers, the rows. So that's a quick and easy way for me to see, have I got it oriented, have I got it set up like I want to do it. Okay. The same thing over there in the percent off. And then if you look over here on the profit margin, and that's going to be J5 in the show formulas view, you'll notice when I click in there, I get the cells go hot. But notice I want to look for consistency. In other words, I said, all right, I'm going to divide what's in I-15 by what's in H5. Got it? And I just simply come right down and I make sure that there's consistency in what I've got. Follow? It's just a view of it if you want to see it. Now we'll click this, all right? And click on the trace precedence. They don't talk about it here, but let's just click on it real quickly. Okay, and if we want to, it's a little bit of an advanced feature, and I'll let you take a look at it and play around with it some, but it will show you arrows that indicate the cells, okay? They'll show you where you got the answer, essentially. I don't use it that much because I think if you've done the formatting and the setup of the spreadsheet, you don't really need to do this, you should just have it cold already. There's another little tool that's in here they don't talk about in the authors, but it's a little bit of an advanced tool. Okay. Click over on the formulas view and then on the far right, and you'll see a little thing looks like it has a little pair of glasses. It's called the watch window. Okay. Now, let's say that you're working with a spreadsheet and you have 500 records. And the very far southeast corner of it is a grand total. And you want to see what happens to the grand total if I change a cell over here in one of these other areas. If I have the watch window, it will let me see how that value changes as I make the change. And I'll let you play around that if you want to. You can always use the help feature on that. They've got all kinds of ways that you can use it. But the watch windows is again one of those tools that's there that lets you see beyond just the visual area that you're presented based on the size of your machine or your screen. Making sense? A little bit different, but some tools that will help you. Now, well, let's say that you had the profit margin, but you had 600 records, or 100, or 150. In other words, you have records that are going way beyond up here. And you want to say, okay, well, if I change the profit margin here, how does it change the grand total? The watch window will identify that and it will show you how to change without you having to scroll down there. Okay? That's one of these. And if you're, do I have any finance majors in here? Okay, you're going to be using some of these tools, I guarantee you, because you'll be working with files that have lots and lots and lots of records. And any accounting majors, okay, same story there. You'll use tools like the watch window so you can see if I change a value and I have a record that's out of sight. When I use the word visual acuity, here's what I'm talking about. Depending upon the device you're using, you're only going to see a certain amount of the spreadsheet. I think the spreadsheet in Excel, I think it has, I don't know how many columns it has, but I think it has like 666 rows or something like that. If you want to find out, just put your cursor and just go down and see. So if you're working with a whole bunch of records, that watch window becomes very, and you could go out and see some examples of how it works. Now, again, the authors talk about sales workshop structure on that business starting over on page 334. Let's talk about that for just a moment, okay? Again, I want to reiterate to you how you set up a good table. First thing you want to do is you want to make sure that you have the input data and what I would call the dimensional data over to the left. Why? Because people in this culture read left to right. Notice what I've got. I've got the product, right? Then I have an identifier of the product, the code, and then I have the cost, okay, which is an input. I have a markup rate, which is another output. I have a markup amount, which is another, which is an output. Retail price is an output. The percent off is an input. The sale price is an output. The profit amount is an output, and so is the profit margin. So notice what I've done is I always have an input before an output, something that I feed in to get a result. Okay? The next thing and this is just me, I go ahead and I make certain that I have to create a ribbon. And I've done that here with the blue, and then a ribbon on the bottom so it looks uniform. It looks nice. I'm up here on these headers, these identifiers, I click home, and just to make them a little bit more visible, I'll put them in bold. Okay. Now, I also try to make sure that I use a color that's going to be acceptable for a business situation. This light blue, I know it's not the same as a really wild orange or something like that. Hi, the first time you go to a meeting and have really wild orange tables, people are going to look at you like you're a fruitcake, because business wants more formality, and so you probably want to stick with something of this type. Got me? Now, we have some other data over here. Profit margin stats, calculated them, and I've got the average, the standard deviation, the median, and the range. I'm going to go ahead and I have the profit margin stats. I have it formatted, and I'll go ahead and make it bold too so it matches the top of the ribbon. And then I'm going to go ahead and put these in all orders so it matches the table. Voila. So there's continuity in terms of how it looks. Yes? Now, one of the nice things about Excel is our ability to display data, okay, is nearly as good as our ability to calculate data. And that's important because in the end, this table tells a story. You say, what do you mean? Well, if I were to ask you the question, which item has the highest profit margin? There's a couple of ways I can go about this. Let's take one that's a little more complicated. Put your cursor on column A in row A4, okay? And highlight the array A4 to I10, okay? Highlight that array. J10, excuse me, J10. Now, take and go over to the far right-hand side and click Sort and Filter, okay? And you'll see a thing that says Custom Sort. Click that. You're going to get the Custom Sort dialog box. Now, make sure that up in the far right-hand it says My Data Has Headers. Why? These are categories or variables or dimensions of the data below them. So you want to make sure that you have that clicked. Okay? Now, I'm going to sort this by profit margin, and I have a choice. I can go from smallest to largest, which would be an AZ search, or I can do it from largest to smallest, which would be a ZA. It depends on what I want to see. Am I interested in the largest and then down, or the smallest and up? I can go either way. If I'm doing this on the fly and I'm in a meeting, and if you're in a meeting and everybody's seeing the same thing like we are right now, and you can do this on the fly, that's really when you see the value of this tool. Just let's see, okay, let's go from the smallest to largest and just see. What's the least profitable to the most profitable in terms of profit margin? Okay. You said, well, let's flip this on the other side. Oh, that's fine. Let's go back to the custom sort. Okay. And we'll delete that. We'll just go ahead and you can use the, we could just simply use the profit margin. We're going to sort on the values. And this time we'll go largest to smallest. And there we are. You follow? There's another way you can do that, and we'll take it back up. And if you look in the far left corner, and we've done our sorts with And I want to just kind of walk out of what I did because I want to do something else. So just click the undo and undo. And I should be back to where I was. Okay? That's just a quick way to do it. With me? Now, Excel provides us a whole set of nice visualization tools and some pretty simple ones to use. And if you don't have a humongously large data set, one that's really effective is conditional formatting. So if you look in styles, you see that? Got it? Click on conditional formatting. And then we're going to come down and you'll see the highlight cell rules, top and bottom, the data bars, which either a solid or a gradient fill. We're going to use color scales. Now, before you choose anything, you'll see to the right is your choices. Got them? Now, typically what we do is if it's money and it's good, it's green, right? If it's money and it's bad, it's bad. So I'm going to go with the green, yellow, red scale, just like a stop sign. So I'm gonna highlight these cells in terms of profit margin. I'll highlight them. I'll come up to the conditional formatting. I'm going to choose the color scales. I'm going to choose the very first one, and boom. Now, again, it depends on how many data or how many records you're working with. Okay, and you could see when we did the conditional formatting, if you looked up there, if you had a ton of them, of records, you could see how it could start to get kind of jumbled. But since we've got a small number, we can look at this. And right now, I can tell you that we have the top two, which are, well, those are mugs and t-shirts. How do I know? Because, and the highest one is green, the most intensity green is the t-shirt. This is not any different than when you're watching the weather and they show you rainfall amounts. And typically the rainfall amounts will be the most, usually either be a green, I think they use a green, yellow, red scale. It'll be a really green, and you'll see that's the most intense. You'll see, maybe you'll see some of the outer boundaries of it. You go to the Weather Channel and take a look and start to notice some of that stuff. And that's how they present the data. So people say, okay, right here is where it's raining the heaviest. Out here is where it's a little bit of rain, not too much. Same as snowfall, any kind of precipitation, wind, anything that they want to display. No different here. So we can easily and quickly capture, well, who's looking really good, who's looking good, who's kind of in between, and who's not looking so good. You see the color grade even goes to a light orange, that orange, and then to a deep red. So this gives you something to work with. And you could do this on the fly. Present this in a report, whatever you chose to do, whatever met your needs. Follow? Okay. That's one of these things that helps with the visual, presenting these data visually so they tell a story. Now, if I were to say, well, you're saying, Doctor, what story am I hearing here? Well, what I'm hearing, first of all, is I make a lot of money off of t-shirts and mugs. And I don't make much money off of hats and hoodies. So I have a management decision to make, or maybe a sales or a marketing decision. Do I want to continue? Do I want to push t-shirts and mugs because they're my high profit margin, my highest profit margin? Or do I want to try to push hats and hoodies because they're my lowest profit margin? Well, really, the souvenir program and the hats and the hoodies, but the souvenir program is in desperate shape. Do I really want to push those? Or do I want to carry it and put my money in other products? The whole idea of this is for you to have data in front of you. What you see right now is data. Information is data that I can use to make a decision. It's called actionable data. And I've got actionable data. I can say, well, I'm going to drop the because people aren't really buying them. Well, what might be the issue? Well, let's look at them. How much do we sell them for? What's the retail price? Can somebody tell me what the retail price is for a souvenir program? Is it there? How much is it? 20 bucks. How does it fare versus our other products? The highest or the lowest? It's the second highest. I think it's the third highest. And when you look at the hoodie, for example, $61. So you've got some food for thought there in terms of your decision making. Okay. Now, I'm going to show you something. Second. Okay. This is what you get paid to do. A little bit crude, but it brings up the point. The horizontal axis on the top deals with what we would call scenarios or conditions. What's going on out there in the market for my product or product service bundle? Will my competitor raise their price or not? When I'm making decisions, I'm always dealing with uncertainty because I can't foretell the future. So I'm dealing with problems often that are all problems or decisions I have to make have a known and unknown factor about them. Now, look at the quadrant here and look at the northwest. And these are ways that I can handle a problem. The safest bet is what the problem is, and I know what to do. Follow? Then if I, over here in the far southeast quadrant, I have an interesting situation where you make money, get promoted, etc., or you crash and burn. When I have an unknown situation, I'm not sure what it is, and I don't really know how to deal with it. And I have one of these. Then I have a mix of known and unknown solutions, maybe an unknown problem, unknown problems, and known solutions, perhaps. That's what you get paid to do, is to try to figure that out. After you've made the decision, then you're going to have another situation to deal with. And it's this. Most of the time when people make decisions, they think they're binary. That is, they think that a decision, okay, is a yes or no, good or bad, blah, blah, blah. But they're not. Decisions normally are distributed along a thing we call the Gaussian distribution, the so-called bell curve. And we kind of have an area where, well, this is typically what happens. But then we have those situations where really good things happen, situation where really bad things happen. This tool is designed to help me identify where things might go if I change some of these prices, or I decide to drop a product or something of that sort. Because with the data that I've got here with the profit amounts, if I know how much profit I make, let's take hats for example. If I make $6.13 off of hats and I sell 1,000 hats, how much am I going to make? I make $6.13 per hat. I sell 1,000 hats. How much do I make? Profit. $6,130. Okay. Now, here's the problem. I know I'm going to make, I think I know I'm going to make $6.13 in terms of profit margin, and I think I'm going to sell 1,000 hats, but I may not. Something may happen with the vendor, or the price of that hat the cost goes from $7.85 to $9 to $10. Then suddenly my profit margin drops. Or maybe maybe my cost structure and profit structure stay the same, but I don't sell 1,000 hats. My competitor comes in and waxes me, takes me out by selling their hat for half what I sell mine for. Why would they do that? Well, their attitude is $3 in my pocket and none in his is better than $10 in his pocket and none in mine, or $3 in his pocket and none in mine. Called a zero-sum game. When I was your age, the world had these two superpowers that had enough missiles and thermonuclear weapons to blow up the earth about 25 times. 20, 30,000 nuclear weapons. Just fill the air with them. So you press a button, boom. But there was a thing called mutually assured destruction, MAD, which said, well, if we fire our missiles, even if we fire them first, they're going to destroy us. Or if they fire theirs first, we're going to destroy them. Because we have these things called submarines, nuclear submarines, and they're out working all over the world. And then about a week after we think we've won, those U.S. nuclear-powered subs are going to let loose with enough firepower in even one of them, more firepower in even one of those submarines than we had expended in all of World War II. So those of us who come out from under the caves waving our flags that we've won are going to get obliterated. Or you'll die in a nuclear winter anyway. Now, all of you, I understand. You look at me. I'm an old guy, I'm fat. And you know what, though? I have an advantage over you. In the event of a nuclear winter, let's say that we get hit by a meteor. I killed all the dinosaurs, and a nuclear winter comes. I'm going to be living on my fat cells. But because I'm a good Christian and I love you, as I walk by when you're writhing in the throes of not having any food and no fat cells to live on, I go, God bless you, God bless you, God bless you. Think about it. So there's a lot of information here in terms of the products and sales prices, profit margins, a lot. It looks pretty simple, but there's far more here. If this is stuff I'm selling, what kind of scenarios could I build to work with these? So I'm going to just take us on a quick little trip on a thing called the scenario analysis. It won't take us too long, but we'll use the scenario manager. And let's see, do I have these or data? And alrighty. And I've got, okay, good. Now, put your cell in D5, okay? And we've got these markup amounts, right? Now, click on the data tab, very top, okay? Click it. And then if you go to the far right-hand side, you're gonna see a thing called a forecast, a what-if analysis. You see it? Your job every day is going to be to grapple with the thing called risk, which is uncertainty. What if this happens? What if that happens? I planned on selling 50,000 white SUV Ram trucks this year. I'm only going to sell 10,000. Whoops. And I'm halfway through the production schedule, so I've got 15,000 of them sitting out there. Meanwhile, my friends at Toyota who rent a satellite to go around the globe, just coincidentally to go across my manufacturing plants and see how many cars are sitting outside. They see I've got a lot of cars sitting out there, and I don't have many delivery transit trucks pulled up. Ooh. So it's time for us to push the sale of our big SUV because the folks at Dodge have messed up. Not good. So I'm dealing with scenario analysis. Scenarios. So click on the what if analysis and click on the scenario manager. Okay. The scenario manager lets me build in with different data, sets of data variables, and see what results I'll get if things change. Now I'm gonna click add, okay? And I'm going to call this scenario. Now we're just going to do this. We'll do base, okay? And the changing cells will be these cells. 5 to D10. So I have a thing called the base. In fact, I'm going to call it base case. And the changing cells are D5 to D10. That is the markup rates. Now, I can put some verbiage in here, some comments about what is this all about. Okay?
And the caption says he did what?
And I'm just going to write in base case.
Perfectly explain what took place on that play. Exactly.
Markup rate.
The best thing that happened on that play was I made an awful throw.
And I just put the base case. I better spell it nicely. Type it out. I'm going to call it original markup rate. Okay. I kind of did a Children of the Corn thing there just for and I click OK. And notice once I click OK, I get the changing cells. Now this is the base case. This is where I started. Follow me? I'm going to click OK. And then I want to see, okay, what does it look like? And I'll click show. And of course, nothing changed because this is my base case. He says, so you're telling me, Dr. Harmon, if I wanted to, I could change any one of those 5 or any combination of those 5 and build scenarios. Absolutely. If I've got 5 choices, how many scenarios can I build there? A lot of them. How about 25 or so? I could change any one of those 5. I could really, it's more than that. I could change 2 of the 5, 3 of the 5, 4 of the 5, all 5. You can see I can build several scenarios to see how this is going to work. Let's say, okay, I'm going to say, okay, I'm going to add a second, and I'm going to put in worst case. And down here, and cells D5, and down here in the comments, I'm going to put competitor in price war. Okay? And so my competitors come and said, I'm going to go after you, and I have to carry the same items. I'm going to use a different markup rate, and you're either going to match me or I'm going to get your sales. So click OK. And instead of 1.095, my competitor has decided to change this down to 1.0. And instead of 1.2, they change it to 1.1. And instead of 2, they go 1. They cut the price by 50% on us. Here they take it down to 0.99. And here at 0.0875, they take it to 0.05. Okay. Now I'll click OK. And now I can click show. And it will let me see what happens. Your results. Follow? Now we did the base case, which allows us to go back to our original settings. So we'll click on the base case, okay? And we can click show, and we're back to where we were. But this lets us see what happens in the worst case. Or let's say, you say, well, could you say a best case? Sure. My competitor, they raise their markup rates. I could decide to stay where I'm at, or I could match them. You follow me? This lets you take this spreadsheet and do some things with it you couldn't do otherwise. But the whole point of the scenario manager is to let you see the potential outcomes of your decisions. All righty. What else did I want us to do? Well, all right, we've got that. Now click back in there and let's see if you've got your, click on your what if analysis and let's see in your scenario manager, you're good there. All right, we're gonna look at one other little tool here and we'll run into these again if at some point. Now, we're gonna use a little tool over here called the goal seek. So click on the what if analysis and click goal seek, okay? And we're gonna choose a cell. I wanna set a profit amount, okay, to a certain value by changing one of my cells. So I'm going to set the cell I5 to $7 by changing my markup rate. So I'm now asking myself, if I wanted a profit margin of $7 on hats, by changing the markup rate, how do I do that? How much do I need? What kind of markup rate do I need? You want me to back up and redo? Happy to. This is a nice little tool. I'll just cancel this for a second. Okay. I'm going to click on what if analysis. Then I click goal seek. Got that? And I have the goal seek dialog box. Now I'm going to set the cell, and the cell I'm after is the profit amount. So that's I5. Follow me? So far, so good? And I'm going to click on here, and I want to set that value. I want my profit margin to be $7. Okay, so far? Yeah. So I want to set it to $7 and I want to know, okay, how much what kind of markup rate do I need to get that $7 of profit? Well, I'll click over here and I'll click on the cell D5 for the markup rate. Got that? Are you with me? And now I click OK. And it tells me. Isn't that nice? So this is especially good for me if the scenario manager is a really great tool when I send something to a colleague or I'm working on a shared document. If I'm working, say, on the fly, like we are in a meeting like we are now, I've got these tools here that let me show you in an interactive way how things look if I take certain actions or certain conditions are operative. So, and if we want, we can just cancel it and go back to where we were. So there's a lot more here than meets the eye. Okay. Quite around. We'll come back to some of these tools. Not that big of a deal. We've used some of the data analysis tools. We played around with them. I think, if I'm not mistaken, yeah, we did a pivot. And if we want, we can do a real simple chart. So let's take the cursor and click, take your cursor and highlight the array A4 down to J10. And we'll click insert. And then you see the charts. And it gives us some recommended charts. Okay. And we'll click, let's do a, let's look at the recommended chart. Well, let's do this. Let's work with a, Let's do a bar chart. And we'll do a 2 column. Now, we're just playing with this for a minute here. So this is a really, really jumbled. And what we would need to do would be to go in and actively select the data that we want. But just let you, this just show you, in terms of the codes. I mean, there's stuff in here we don't want. We would probably want to focus on one of the variables, maybe 2 of them, the margin or the amount, something like that. And we can do that pretty easily. And we'll get into some charting here. Okay. Now, if I want to redo the chart, it's simple. I click inside the chart area and I click select data, and I can eliminate data and add data at will. We'll do some charting. And we'll just delete that chart. It's more for static types of presentations. All right, I started a little bit early, so I think we've traveled a little bit here, did a little bit of work. So you want to make sure that you save this on your desktop, celebrity souvenir, your last name, your first name, hands-on 2, okay? And then what are you going to do with it? Just upload it for the 15 points of credit, and we'll go back over to the modules. Oops, or shot. That's all right. Right there. There we go. And so you'll upload that for hands-on 2. And then we'll use this one we created today as the starting point for hands-on 3. Got it? Okay, my friends, anybody have a question? Got a lot of folks out there in terms of TV land. Anybody have a question? All right, folks. Thank you so much. We'll call it a day, and I'll see you on Thursday.